request for proposals, RFPs. Get ready, because in this space of government contracting, many will say the key to government contracting is you respond to requests for proposals. You respond to these solicitations. That is what you are to do if you want to win work in the federal government space. You respond. Well, guess what? If you don't understand what you're responding to, if you don't understand the evaluation criteria, if you're not even prepared to really execute the work, what's the point? So I'm here to help, to break down, talk to you about the things they do not talk to you about when it comes to requests for proposals. Number one, what are they? An agency has dollars. Hopefully. They should have dollars by this stage to put toward a product or services. So by this time, an agency, they're basically saying that they have funding to purchase a product or service. And they have put out there, put on the streets, as we like to say in GovCon lingo, a solicitation. A request for a proposal. A combined solicitation is another term you may see. Again, they are saying to you, to us, industry, can you provide what we are looking for? And if so, please respond by XYZ date, typically in a PDF document or a Word. That's in essence an RFP. So where do you find all these opportunities? As you already know, yes, you go to Sam.Gov. There's also NICO, which is connected to the Navy, and there's Unison. These are at least 3 places where you can go to identify these opportunities. But let's dig deeper. Deadlines. When you first pull up a solicitation, you're going to want to look at when the opportunity was released and the deadline. Anything in which you have less than 2 weeks to respond, that's a red flag. They may already have someone in mind. If you want, you're more than welcome to try, or you could actually email the points of contact and request a deadline extension. You're more than welcome to do it, but I typically will only respond to opportunities in which I have more than 2 weeks. 2 weeks or more to respond. Very, very important. The next thing that I do as I look through the opportunity, I take notice of who is it for, which agency, which department within the agency. I also look at the location of the contracting officer, and you got to dig deep and get into those attachments. Sometimes there's 1 attachment, 2 attachments. Other times there's 10, 20 attachments. I immediately go for the attachment that will outline not only the performance work statement or statement of work, I immediately jump, and this is important, to the evaluation criteria, basis of award, basis for award, award criteria. I will often use a control or command F, as I typically use a Mac and forget the name of the keys, and I look for it. Here is why. You can have past experience or past performance with the vendor. You may have 30 days to respond. You know you can perform the work. You know this. But if the evaluation criteria states you have to have a security clearance and you don't, then what are you going to do? You're not the prime, you couldn't prime it, right? Or if it states you must provide a resume for every single position, are you capable of doing that? If they state the key personnel must have 15 years experience with the FBI and have all these credentials that you've never heard of before, are you able to fulfill that requirement? If it says the evaluation criteria is lowest cost, technically acceptable, or just lowest cost, which I ran into the other day, are you prepared for that? So before you even start to think about who is going to write this, how am I going to write this, before you're already imagining that you're spending this money, before you even get to that point, you must understand the evaluation criteria. And they'll outline it for you. They will let you know, and it's in order. So they'll typically have like factor 1 or factor A, and they'll list technical proposal or resumes. Sometimes they will ask for financials. Yes, your profit and loss, your balance sheet. Sometimes they will ask, please explain to us your benefits plan. So you must be prepared, and you must understand, and you must accept this is how they're evaluating you. If it says lowest cost technically acceptable is based on the lowest cost. So then you have to ask yourself, how am I going to figure this out? How am I going to pull this off if I don't really have a baseline? That's where my next tip comes in. And this tip you're going to use throughout, depending on if they gave you a deadline or not. And that is asking questions. Typically in a request for a proposal, they will state you have until XYZ date to submit all questions in writing. And this is a great time. Every single time you want to always ask this question. This is a very important question. You need to write this down, type this out, cut this, screen record what I'm about to tell you. Is there an incumbent? And if so, what is their name and what is the contract number? Every single time you need to ask that. Every single time. The only time you wouldn't ask that is if you're the incumbent. You don't need to ask it then. You're wanting to ask questions like that because it's going to give you inside information. If they state, yes, here's the incumbent, here's the contract number, you can then use that information and go online. You can get the information on Google, on Sam.Gov. You can go on GovTribe for free and pull that information so at least you have a baseline. And then you need to make the decision, am I going to bid if there is an incumbent, and especially if they're still able to respond. Very important. So throughout this process, you're going to want to ask them clarifying questions, but not questions that are going to give away your strategy, right? But you're going to want to ask them questions and you follow the format in which they give you. That's the other really important tip with RFPs. You have to follow instruction. If it states Word document, Times New Roman, 12-point font, that's what you do. If it states PDF, that's what you do. If it states you must ask all questions in this sheet, that's what you do. If you must put pricing in this Excel sheet, that's what you must do. This is not the time to just say whatever. I mean, you can say whatever and you're not going to win, but this is not the time, y'all. It really isn't. I mean it. I'm very sincere because, I can tell you my early days, my goodness, I bid on so many opportunities. I had this spreadsheet. It was like 80. Yeah, I didn't win it. I didn't win because I just was like, whatever. I mean, I followed their instruction, but I kind of did my own little thing. I didn't know. And I didn't know this. I had no idea about the evaluation criteria. Another tip, when it comes to the evaluation criteria, that's how you set up your response. So if the evaluation is price, and it doesn't even say technically acceptable, it just says price, you already know it's price. If the number one factor is technical response, then you need to make sure your document aligns with technical response, which then goes with the performance work statement and statement of work. Which you may be wondering, oh my gosh, you haven't even talked about that yet, right? Because if you can't meet the evaluation criteria, then why does it even matter what the work entails? It's a waste of time. And what you want to do is increase your win rate. That's the whole point of this. It's not just to bid, because if you don't know what you're bidding on, you're not going to win. Not. So when it comes to performance work statement, statement of work, PWS, SOW, it's either in the same document, one of the main documents, and maybe pulled out. You need to go through all of the documents after you've decided that you can meet and or exceed the evaluation criteria. So as you're going through PWS, SOW, you are to look for code words, code phrases, code language to see if this is rigged for someone else. Here's an example. I came across a solicitation for a client and it talked about you, the vendor, must be 30 minutes from our location. 30 minutes, that's an interesting way to put something because the amount of time it takes you to drive, it's based on traffic. Yes, of course, the miles, but it's based on traffic. So someone would normally say you must be within 30 miles, 20 miles, 100 miles. The fact that they said 30 minutes, it's like, okay, you have somebody in mind. Because how do you know if somebody's 30 minutes? Like, so you may say to yourself, well, Kizzy, maybe they meant miles, but they said minutes. I disagree. Because nowhere in the federal government do they pay you for the amount of time you've spent in the car, unless that's part of your contract. we've been reimbursed for travel all the time and it's based on miles, right? So that's code. Another example of code, there was an opportunity where they kept saying something like lead consultant, the senior, like it wasn't a labor category. It was like this weird way that they were talking about this opportunity. And it's weird because when things are not using code, they will say contractor will provide, vendor will provide, contractor site. When you start using these kind of titles like lead consultant, that's code for that's the type of language you're using with the incumbent because you're so used to saying that. You're so used to calling them that. So are you really looking for another vendor? I don't know, maybe, but that's code. So when I start to see these flags, all this code, I'm like, I don't know, my win rate's going down because it may be rigged. They know who they possibly want. Another example of possible code is if they're very specific around like a type of training or some type of software. Because my majority of my experience has been in services, especially training, IT. Sometimes they'll mention something like a very specific course name and I'll Google it and see that it's connected to another vendor. So once again, do I have a likelihood of winning that, knowing that they have pulled the name of a course that another vendor is offering? I don't know. When I see those types of things, I'm out. I don't bid on them because it's not worth my time. I'd rather put time and energy into efforts where those flags are not there. That's just me. Feel free to do what you need to do. But for my experience of over 10 years, I didn't have any kind of success with that. Not at all. The other thing that you want to do throughout this process, okay, is you need to remain laser focused on that opportunity and make sure you're signed up for any kind of updates and look for if and when they release Q&A. Sometimes it's posted on Sam.Gov. Sometimes it's email, depending on how you receive the opportunity. And the reason you need to pay attention to this, and this is something very few talk about, y'all, like get ready for this. This is gonna blow your mind, okay? You ready? Are you ready? I'm ready. The responses in the Q&A now become part of the requirement. So if they state, no, you don't have to provide a resume for every position. Okay, you don't. If they say, yes, you must provide a resume and a bio for every position, you must do that. If they state, we no longer want 5 curriculum developers, we only want 3, you need to make sure you update your document to reflect that. If they state, yes, the training may be in person and online or blended, you need to reflect that. It shows them that you are paying attention. It also shows that you are acknowledging these changes in the requirement. So you must stay laser focused on these. Sometimes they'll release them up into the day before. Sometimes you have to ask them, hey, did you release these? Do you have plans to release them? It's very important to be assertive in this area because you don't want to miss out on something because you were too busy. You took your hands off the wheel, and I get it. I totally get it, y'all. This is not the easiest, right? But the path can be easier, right? That's why I'm here. I just want to help y'all. I just want to help you find, bid, and win profitable government contracts. That's it. So I know this was helpful. I know y'all are excited. I cannot wait to read your comments below, for you to subscribe, put on that alert bell, all of that, and please share my content. And I wish you nothing but success because I know y'all can do it. I know you can. I know you will. Why? Because y'all are GovCon winners. You're going to do this. All it takes is just a little support while you're doing it. And I'm here for you. So until next time, don't forget everything. I mean this, y'all. Everything is possible.